Welcome to the Underground, the Steel City Underground, the black and gold standard for Pittsburgh Steelers coverage. Now, here's your host, Joe Kuzma and Brian E. Roach.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to another edition of the Steel City Underground podcast. My name is Joe Kuzma, and I am joined here by my colleague, the baddest man on the planet, or something like that, Mr. Brian E. Roach. Brian, what's going on, man? Take that title from Mike Tyson, and
I don't need that kind of pressure. I don't need that heat. No, I'm not the baddest. I may be the baddest man in this room.
The same thing here, man.
This room, but I don't want to be the one. Don't forget that. Nope, I'm out. I'm out of that. That's all right.
No, I get it. I got it. I was just thinking. I almost mentioned a he who shall not be named. We've got some things to talk about. Some
M
Steelers
squared.
News. Yeah, MM squared, exactly the one I was talking about, because he's already running his mouth about him and Pony and all these people. That all of a sudden the Steelers' offensive line is garbage again, even though they haven't played a game, and it's driving me crazy. And you know what? This is a good place to start this show because there's some other acquisitions and stuff. But I've been doing some work. Doing some writing over at SteelCityUnderground.com. Some things forthcoming in this week too, as we go into the Labor Day holiday weekend. So a happy holiday weekend to everyone, including yourself, Brian.
Oh, thank you.
But one of the things, and I don't like to jump the gun too early on this, but this coincides with the offensive line. Kevin Colbert's been getting some criticism, a lot of the media, the people who don't pay close enough attention to the Pittsburgh Steelers, who still think, well, why didn't they offer anything to Alejandro Villanueva? And they just don't get it, and they don't understand some of the changes. But they're criticizing Kevin Colbert in the way that he approached the offensive line and patching it. Well, for starters, you had a guy, you had Marquise Pouncey retired with enough time. They knew they weren't going to offer Villanueva. They probably weren't prepared for Pouncey right out the gate, but it still gives them time. They have free agency. They had the draft to think about it. But David DeCastro was after the fact. That was like 2 days or the day they're supposed to report for training camp. And people are like, I can't believe that a GM of his tenure, this and that, did this and that. Look at what Kansas City did. And who you can't say necessarily is Kansas City going to be right? Is the kid that they drafted, is he going to start? Is he going to be healthy, playing center, and some of the free agents that they added? And maybe they didn't have as many holes. They already had Clyde Edwards-Helaire and some other running backs in the stable, and they've got their quarterback for like the next 15 years or so. They don't have the same type of issues. They've also been like in the AFC Championship for the last 3 years. So what else do they have to really patch? They also let some free agents go and things of that nature. But I digress. The whole thing is the approach of Kevin Colbert and repairing the Steelers' offense. And you overlook the coaches, overlook some of those changes, but just by the players. Steelers didn't have money for free agency. They were cash strapped. And so everyone immediately thinks they're gonna draft a tackle. Go draft an offensive tackle. This is going to fix everything, right? And no, they didn't. They went and got Naiji Harris. They went and got Pat Freiermuth. What is this clown doing? But the whole point of my speech here, Brian, is this could be one of Kevin Colbert's finer draft jobs. We're looking at potentially the first 4 picks starting and or contributing to at least, half of the game, half of the snaps or better, because I think Freiermuth is going to ascend there. We know Naiji is going to be the starter. Kendrick Green, even though they haven't updated the depth chart, will be the starter. And now we're talking Dan Moore, because I don't think the last time we talked, we didn't have the transactions yet. With everyone that went to injured reserve. So Zach Banner goes to injured reserve. The panic there being that Dan Moore is going to jump in there. And Dan Moore has been, this is like last year, everybody was like, oh, Kevin Dotson, this is great. This is fine. But now all of a sudden it's like you take a guy in the 4th round and now he's like, not going to be good? Which one is it? Can you have both? Because I actually think at this point right now, Moore is better than we thought Dotson was going to be last year, and they both come out of the same round.
I'm not sure I'm ready to say that first part, but I'm not. Yeah. I'm also not ready to say no. Dan Moore's been really, really, really good in preseason. he's overperformed expectations without a doubt. There's no question about that. Look, the bottom line is nobody knows Jack, Poopy,
Jack
about, Jack Crap, about what the end result of a draft class is going to be for 5, 6, 7 years, right? Mm-hmm. But if they have contributions, it's one thing to say, okay, we may have 4 guys out of this draft class starting or contributing, maybe even more. But if they start and they're good, that's one thing, right? That's when you start to go, wow, this is great. You expect Naiji to be that way. I think Freiermuth is going to be an absolute terror, to be quite frank. I think he's going to surprise and shock everybody and just be like, wow, okay, and make Ben a very happy man most of the season. And I still have a tremendous amount of faith in Kendrick Green. I think he will be a really solid center. Is he going to be Marquise Pouncey type? I don't know. Is he going to be a guy that in 10, 12 years we're going, wow, he's a Hall of Famer? I don't know that, but I think he will be a capable and impact player and be able to stabilize that line. Yeah, he's going to have some growing pains. All rookies have growing pains, right? So for people to just badmouth the line right now is just about as ridiculous as other people going, it'll be if we had, not that anybody's saying this, but if we had people out there going, this will be the greatest offensive line since the history of offensive line, that would be ridiculous too. You don't know. And you can't even suppose at this point. They've looked very good in preseason. So why would you go, oh, they're going to stink?
I don't know. I think some of it is just like we talk about. It's always the shock jock clickbait type stuff, and it's very, very annoying to me when I see these type of things because there's so many players in the NFL that are starting at center that aren't necessarily a first-round pick, and I was starting to go through some of these. Hopefully I could find the actual – some of this information, by the way, when I start to search it, for example, on depth charts and stuff, is just kind of like, okay, what am I reading here? It's like worse than the Rand McNally key or something like that, or topography. But some of the centers you have, we did this before – going back to before the draft, how many guys are taken in the top 100 picks at that position? On average, we figured out 3 at the most. And most of the teams in the NFL do not have somebody that, the Ravens, Bradley Bozeman moving over from guard, he's a 6th round pick back in 2018. Just because he's a veteran or he played a different position, we'll see how that ends up working out. Buffalo Bills, let me see here. Mitch Morse comes in. Is he a 2nd rounder? Yeah, for the 49th overall. So you've got some players like that. I'm willing to bet if I just keep going through this, and I won't bore everyone with this, but go ahead and take a look just how many first-round picks. Marquise Pouncey being a first-round pick, he was at the bottom of the first round. That's the number one distinction there. The Steelers winning and picking late, so almost the 2nd round pick there. If they would have waited, they might not have gotten him when it came back around the pick 60-ish, whatever they would have been at. So you got to keep that into consideration when you're thinking, former first-round pick, perennial All-Pro, got to replace him with another first-round pick. That doesn't always work. You get one pick a year unless you're some of these other teams that ship them off in trades and whatnot. So I'm not necessarily worried about that. And it was, not this guy when it came to who you were picking and choosing, like Landon Dickerson or one of those guys that have had Creed Humphrey, and you had some. Dickerson was the one that had all the knee problems and whatnot. Mm-hmm. It was very, that would have been questionable. Oh, you're gonna have this guy. What if he ends up getting hurt? Tevin Jenkins was supposed to be the guy. That was who a lot of people mocked to the Steelers. He's hurt right now too with the Bears. So you never know how these things are going to work out. And then Travis Etienne, if they went with him over Najee Harris, and then Etienne gets hurt, oh man, this is all scrapped. And you can't like second guess that with injuries. You don't know how the rookies are going to play yet. So I'm not necessarily trying to say that. I'm saying it has a potential to be just because of how many players are filling roles. That raises question marks as well. But from what I've seen with Moore, would you rather have Moore out there who This is great. And I think Zach Adonia, who's going to be on these shows eventually here, he's working on this, by the way.
I know. I've told him for a year and a half to get a mic.
Well, he's got the big boy house now with the lady, so he's carving out the studio spot, and he's getting set up.
I'm glad to see he's developed a taste for I won't go there.
Commitment. Consistency. Oh my.
Consistency and commitment. Okay. That's the direction I was going. Yeah, absolutely.
Well, yeah, commitment. Anyways, he'll be laughing at that. He actually listens to the show, so that's positive there. But he's probably like a 95%er. He's probably done right after this comment. So anyways.
Yeah, it's like, they talked about me. I'm out. I'm good.
I was giving him credit for saying that. We love it when Pro Football Focus says good things about the players we want. It's the confirmation bias. And then when they say something bad, it's like, what are they looking at? They're stupid. But at the very least, they think Dan Moore has had an excellent preseason. And he's going up against some ones there, too. Maybe some twos, some backups, or guys that are like veteran players trying to make team. And, it's not all a bunch of bums and grocery baggers and the car salesmen or whatever they're doing now, unfortunately.
This is the way that I look at this with Dan Moore, right?
Yeah, okay.
Okay, he's a rookie. He's going to make some mistakes. Is he going to be worse than Alejandro Villanueva was last year? No.
That's where I was headed.
He's not. So, whether it's equivalent, right, which is no worse, or better, and my estimation is you cannot actually get a lot worse. And I know this is where the PFF stuff is just malarkey and tomfoolery. You cannot grade Alejandro Villanueva as high as they did last year based on the fact that the ball was released every 2.7 seconds. So he didn't have time to give up pressures. He's not going to be worse than Alejandro Villanueva, and he's more than likely, I'd say, high 90 percentile, going to be better overall by the end of the year than Big Al was. And that's not a negative statement about Alejandro Villanueva. He's just an older guy who was never really, he was a tackle for us. He had some solid years. But his story always took and gave him more notoriety than his actual play.
Yeah, that's incredibly fair. Well, as I was going to say too, going back to just the centers for a second, that's going to be Kendrick Green as well. There may be some growing pains, but maybe he's not putting balls in the dirt or anything like that. How about Billy Price, one of our former Buckeyes, man, and getting traded? I mean, he was a first-round pick that didn't work out with the Bengals, 21st overall. So it's just like quarterbacks. You just never know. And of course, this could fit for Green or more, but you'll probably feel a little less worse about it that it's not your first or second-round pick. I feel pretty confident about Harris in front of you.
Where did Price go?
Minnesota, I believe he was just traded to Minnesota. So I'll double check that. That's all. Put me on the spot off the top of my head. New York Giants. New York Giants wasn't Minnesota. Okay. New York Giants. Gotcha. I'm sorry. So they were sniffing around. In fact, they had they signed somebody.
They worked out Devlin Duck Hodges just recently.
Yes, they did that too. But they're having some, man. That's like a lifelong thing. Well, the offensive line is still going to be a work in progress in the coming years. But going into this, it's like, did you feel you needed change? Absolutely. And you're still getting panned for the change. But the other guys that are there are going to facilitate this change too. Does Naiji Harris make the offensive line's job easier? Absolutely. You said it best, is more going to be better than what Villanueva was. I don't know that Banner was going to be. I couldn't see Banner getting on the field. He was getting very limited reps, and it was just like something was like, is he stiff? Is he not in football shape? Is he not completely recovered yet? That scares me more than putting Moore out there. I'd rather have Moore the rookie out there. And Moore, somebody was fighting me with this too. It was like over on Twitter, and it was like, okay, you got Moore moving the left tackle because they've been working Chooks out there the whole time, right? And now they're going to move Chooks back to right tackle. Well, they're finding out Moore. They had Moore on the right side to see if he could work on the right side. They figured out that Moore is a better left tackle, and they don't lose as much with Chooks on the right. It's like, don't weaken two positions at the very least. put the guy in there that started on the right all of last season, basically. He didn't start week 1 only because Zach Banner was the 1A and 1B scenario. And they went with Banner. Banner got hurt within 2-3 quarters is the most he played in that game against the Giants. And then Chooks comes in and boom. And then you have it. So I'd leave the right tackle there. Trey Turner, we'll see what Trey Turner's like. We look pretty smart, Brian. BJ Finney back on the roster, some of these transactions. So yeah. Arthur Millette, Rashad Coward. So the interior offensive line I'm not overly concerned with. Kevin Dotson, I thought, was fine last year. We tend to think the run game has been better with Dotson in there. Dan Moore bullies people around. We don't think necessarily that Kendrick Green is bad with the run game. This may be a thing where their pass protection is actually the more the weakness than having the worst ranked run game last year. They're going to flip over and maybe creep into top 12. They'll be the fringe, top 15 or something like that. I could see something like that happening. So. Yeah. If Turner's still good, we'll find out. I don't know if he's been sitting out because he's been a veteran or they wanted to see what Finney could do there. And you've got some options with the offensive line, but it doesn't completely freak me out like some of the people are freaked out. They had to do something. They made all these changes. They're not the only team that's made these changes. And just because of the way these changes were made, I mean, they had been rolling with Villanueva was an undrafted guy. Ramon Foster was an undrafted guy. Not everybody was a high pedigree starter, and it isn't like that all around the league. Kelvin Beachum, many years ago, he was a 7th-round pick, ends up starting by the end. It starts half the season, and that's necessitated by injuries and whatnot, too, but then he ends up becoming a starter. He was an undersized guy that shouldn't have been playing left tackle in the NFL, and he's still out there with the Cardinals as their starter. So You have these things that happen, and like I said, I'm not too... I'm worked up right now, more or less, of the reaction of it before we get to see what some of it is. And they still have some other little bit of options. I think they're fine on the depth end. I think they're better on depth than they were last year. You at least have guys at this line and not below it as options, like Derwin Gray. And then everybody was mad because he got waived or cut or whatever, which we're going to get into those too. I had to remember to do this retraction real quick, Brian, because I goofed on the way it's structured on the website with the Steelers. You go to Steelers.com/teams players-roster. These NFL sites drive me kind of crazy on some of this, but you've got what's called reserve/injured. And I saw Brooks there, and I was looking. I don't think I actually went through the transaction wire. So he was waived injured. His season wasn't over like Josh Dobbs is actually on the transaction wire of placed Josh Dobbs unreserved injured. And the difference with that is that you have to waive Brooks because he wasn't a vested veteran. He did not revert back to where he was just on this list now, and somebody else could go and pluck him. But the Steelers have a period where they had to wait 3 weeks in order to potentially sign him to a practice squad or 53-man roster. The other teams don't have to wait. The reason for this is so teams just don't waive /injury designation for a dozen players and then nobody else can touch them and they get the horde players. So the players get to go back into the pool, and that's how you get the parity in the NFL. So I wanted to clear that up because I may have goofed on that. So but Brooks signed with the Rams, but he's on the practice squad. The Steelers still have to wait out this period of time. They could go back and pull him back off of the other practice squad, but if they go to do that, they have to sign him to the 53. So there's there's a lot of hoops to jump through. Now, obviously, if the Rams end up releasing or cutting him in a month, and then he's just out there, the Steelers can go and get him. He'll go through the same kind of waiver thing. If he clears waivers and he's a free agent, they could sign him, or they could put a claim in and pick him up off of waivers as well. So right. There's a lot of little legalese, technicalities to these things. Wanted to make sure that was all in there. We got some other stuff that'll make us look smart here in a moment too. But before I get to that, I think you know what's coming. It's that time of the year, right?
It is.
It's the sports betting time of the year.
What?
And yes.
What?
Yes.
People gamble? People bet on sports? What?
They do. Some people get upset about this, too. They're like, no, I'm not going to part with my hard-earned money. Well, that's up to you. If you want to do something like this and you're looking to, put it on the line, put your money where your mouth is sometimes, you can head on over to MyBookie because if you like easy money, they have the lock of the season. This is new for this year. If either team scores in the NFL opener, you win. If you didn't know, a game hasn't ended 0-0 since World War II. So this is a sure bet. If you go to mybookie.ag, select the lock of the season, and if any team scores between the Dallas Cowboys and Tampa Bay Buccaneers, you win. It's the best bet you can make, and then the best one is the one you can't lose.
What? Wait a minute. What? So the bet is that the game doesn't end 0-0.
Correct.
And how much can I bet? Can I bet $1 million?
I think I'll let you do whatever you want. Now, trying to deposit $1 million, that's going to be fun. But if you go to do that, well, we've got some promo codes and things of that nature. So we'll get to that. You'll hear that here. Brian, always the ever intrigued. So the lock of the season, obviously, and then promo code's going to be Steel City, by the way. But MyBookie is also playing host to several exclusive contests, including their $100,000 super contest, which is only $10 to enter, Brian. So you don't have to put $1 million on the line. There's big money on the line this season, so don't wait to get in the game. Join now. You head to mybookie.ag today. Use promo code Steel City. Instantly receive double your first deposit. It's double your funds, my friend, and then you get to double your winnings. So it's pretty easy. So use promo code Steel City, double your first deposit, and get started today. Bet anything, anytime, anywhere with MyBookie. I know some people may be new to seeing MyBookie around or anything like that. They've been a longtime supporter of the show, so they're returning here, and I've never had any problems with them that I could say. And anybody else who really says, I was talking about, I had that whole Lindy's magazine review. It was pretty cool. They had like the whole back cover sponsored there. So like when you're looking at different places that you could bet and things like that, definitely mybookie.ag, promo code Steel City. So
do it. Do it 0-0. You can't lose. Do it.
And no, you can't lose. You can't. Don't make me do the bad impression.
They will not crush you.
Well, the reason I'm getting ahead of this with the holiday weekend is of course we've got holiday plans ourselves, but there's football.
We do.
I don't know what your plans are. Probably just.
Can you tell me what my plans are? Because I didn't know I had any.
It's whatever your wife tells you to do.
No, it's whatever my boss tells me to do.
Oh, well.
And it's not the same thing. It's not the same thing.
No, I was saying there's football Thursday. That's the Thursday night game is the Cowboys and Buccaneers. So as long as that doesn't end in a tie. And right now you got the Cowboys are plus 7.5 and the over and under is 51.5. That's interesting because nobody's seen Dak Prescott. So I'm intrigued by that. Especially.
But let me just make sure I have this straight. It doesn't matter if one of the teams fails to score. As long as one does score, right? As long as the game's not 0-0, you win.
That's correct. Either team scores, you win.
See, This is the kind of bet that I, a non-risk-taking money bettor who doesn't – I'm like, I'll take risks by jumping off hotels and climbing high mountains and doing that, but I don't like to risk my money. That's the kind of bet that I can get behind.
Well, I got the early line on the Steelers, and people were surprised that it's plus 6.5 for the Steelers. They're the underdog. So,
I'm not surprised by that. Why would you?
No, I wouldn't be surprised at all. On the road at Buffalo, usually it's at least 3 or 3.5 when you're talking about a road team. 48.5 for the over/under, though. So I might be on the over on that game.
So might I.
I don't know. So we'll see if that changes when we do the preview later in the week for this game. So we talked offensive line. We talked a little bit didn't talk about all of the draft class, though. I mean, Quincy Roach got released. They still got Buddy Johnson. I don't expect him to really do much. But Trey Norwood, Isaiah Loudermilk, he's on the roster. He'll probably be special teamers or inactive on game days as a rookie. That's fine. But Trey Norwood also could be inactive, but they were working him out as a potential nickel corner. He's probably going to be the top backup as safety. That's as a seventh round pick. That's pretty amazing. And not only make the roster, but he's like in contention for playing time. Potentially, we didn't see a whole lot of Sean Davis last year, who was just released by the Colts, and his career might be all for naught in the NFL now too after five seasons. But 5 seasons, hey, still made it that far. That's still an accomplishment as a professional football player. My other guy, of course, is the gigantor, the punter, the Presley.
BF, and I don't care. I've decided I don't like the BPP because it makes me say PP, and I don't want to say PP. It's the BFP, the big fat punter.
the big fat punter. So I mean, the punter, like, holy crap! Like we went from talking about 4 guys to talking about 6 in this draft class now. Now I don't expect Norwood to do a whole lot or have a whole lot of time, but you're going to have at least 5 of them when you add Harvin to the previous 4 picks, Green, Moore, and then Harrison Freiermuth. So I'm going to get off the draft class, Brian. There's some other moves that happened. We sound again like we might know what we're talking about, despite everyone else saying that we don't. Lo and behold, the Steelers added Carl Joseph. I get it; it's to the practice squad. I don't expect that to last for very long. There's COVID protocol stuff. We were talking about it. Let's put a rubber seal on it. I got 2 ways that this can go.
There's my rubber seal.
Rubber seal. Brian has added. He likes to play with the virtual backgrounds, and I can't get behind that. It feels too fake. So combined with this was like the one that really stood out. This practice squad, just real quick, since we did not cover this on the show yet. Rico Bussey and Cody White, Trey Edmonds and Jalen Samuels. Jalen Samuels added back there. Chaz Green, John LeGlue. Those are your offensive linemen. Kevin Rader, my guy. Mark Gilbert, they have listed as DB, cornerback. Donovan Steiner, who is playing safety. Then they add Steven Sims, who played with the Washington football team, and we got to see a little bit of him. That's got to put a little bit of a target on the back of Ray McLeod. He's going to be looking over his shoulder there. I don't know that Sims is necessarily a return guy, but you still got Deontay Johnson.
Yep.
So Deontay could still do some of that. On kickoffs, kick returns, it's going to be whoever. You know what I mean? It's just like they've had Juju do that before, and then he took it to the house.
Yep.
Well, against Cleveland. So Malcolm, so Steven Sims, anyways, has had a minute or 2 in the NFL, and that's kind of an exciting pickup. Malcolm Pridgeon, another guard that was in camp. Here's another guy coming over from the Broncos. He was a rookie last season. I hope I say this right because people butcher my name enough when they call on the phone. Telemarketers, your car warranty for a car I don't even have anymore. Derek Tuzka. I'm going to say Tuzka. I bet you that's the proper. It's going to be close. But he comes from FCS North Dakota State, which is a powerhouse. And I actually had him mocked to us last year as a late round pick. He's an outside linebacker.
Did you really just say North Dakota State is a powerhouse?
They are in the FCS.
No, there's no such thing as a powerhouse in the FCS.
Oh, you are.
They're just really good in that. I did. And I've been waiting to do it for like 5 years.
Look, I'm gonna pull up now, and I'm gonna make you eat your words. They have won in the FCS since 2011. 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 17, 18, and 19, they were the national champions. This is why guys like Trey Lance and Carson Wentz go to the NFL and get drafted very high. So
I still say there's no such thing as a powerhouse in the FCS.
You know what? That's just ridiculous. That's like Division III.
That's me doing my MM squared impersonation. That's all crap football. They all stink.
You got another one, and Pierre Garçon came from this place. Division III is Mount Union. If you've never heard of Mount Union in Alliance, Ohio, they have 30 conference titles and 13 national championships, and their most recent one was in 2017. They just mow over a whole lot of people too. So it's like you have some dominating programs even in the lower levels of football. Anyways, Derek Tuska comes over from there.
They haven't won since 2017. They stink. They're terrible.
Yeah, it's
the worst team ever. What have you done for me lately? 2017, forget it. You're terrible.
I'm sure I'm not getting into the history of Mount Union. This isn't the Mount Union Underground podcast.
I know.
So.
It's not. I don't crap about them other than I know that they exist.
Yeah. Anyways, Derek Tuska going through some of the transactions. Christian Miller, linebacker, Daniel Archibong, and then Carl Joseph. That was the guy we were talking about.
Archibong?
Bong. That's what it says. Arcibong.
It's 420 someplace.
It might be. It might be. I was saying 9 to 5, Dolly Parton too, right? So
there you go.
Yeah, Jimmy Buffett, always whatever, somewhere, blah, blah, blah. Anyway, you got me off track again. Carl Joseph. This goes with the trade. The Steelers trade a 5th-round pick in 2023 to the Seattle Seahawks. Seattle Seahawks had signed Ahkello Witherspoon this offseason. Yep. And, of course, it's pending the physical, but he was battling for the starting position. He had been a starter with the San Francisco 49ers. This was a guy that we identified several years ago in the draft process. So he played 4 years, 33 games started, 47 games played. He's had a handful of interceptions. He's not, like most corners, he's not the guy where the ball sticks to his hands. So we're not looking at that there. But he's had some good performance and some bad performance. Last year, he was very highly ranked by the Wizards at Pro Football Focus, and the year before he wasn't. And or was that going back to 2018? But he had a foot injury, and this was one of the things that kind of put him off onto the back burner, particularly with the 49ers. And with the Seahawks, of course, one of those lateral interdivision moves. It's a guy that they see often. They go to fit in. Well, they had some other players in the mix there, and of course, they didn't need him. And they're graciously paying a lot of the salary end of it, just like the Joe Schobert trade. This was only a 1-year deal.
Isn't that nice? That's always nice.
And it was only a 1-year deal, so this could be a kind of a short-lived thing with the Steelers. I think everyone was immediately jumping to a lot of conclusions here, and this is the reason why I'm including Carl Joseph in this conversation, because we were just talking about Carl Joseph as a potential backup, or not backup, but replacement for Mike Hilton this season. And we talked about covering running backs, covering tight ends, in addition to maybe the occasional receiver. And as far as the thing with Witherspoon, a lot of people just assume he's going to jump in and play nickel corner, or they assume things about Cam Sutton too. And I'm not sure I'm going to assume. I think there's a couple of ways this could go down. I think the first assumption should be trying to get Arthur Millette to play nickel corner as a starter. They didn't want that. Trey Norwood, just not enough. Rookie, 7th rounder. And then let's move Cam Sutton over. Well, then we have James Pierre or Justin Lane as the primary guys going there with no depth, really. So if you immediately put Pierre out there, which I'm not sure they wanted to do anyways, there's a lot of moving pieces here, Brian. And I feel this is a great pickup if it's even just for depth. He could be an outside starter, but then you just paid all this money to Cam Sutton to have him play nickel corner and like half the game, 2/3 of the game. I think they might still want Sutton on the outside, and they're going to end up calling Carl Joseph up, and I thought that might be what happens. But in your best case scenario, you're going to have Witherspoon coming off the bench instead of Pierre, which I'll take that. That makes me feel better. Slide Sutton over. Maybe bring Joseph out there. There's a lot of moving parts and pieces when it comes to your nickel, dime, and dollar packages that the Steelers have.
No, it provides them some options. It provides them some depth. It provides them some safety and some experience if, in fact, somebody were to get hurt. I think we talked about a little bit about Joe Hayden, but maybe we didn't talk about it last time around because of the news may have been out, but the fact that he, at the age that he's in, wants to go ahead and test the free agent market. He is an older cornerback,
32,
has potential for injury, downside of the career, all that kind of stuff. So, yep, you never know. This gives them some flexibility, which is all that you can ask at this point.
He was talking contract. He's 32 years old, talking contract extension in a year where the Steelers aren't necessarily flush with money, and they've got a guy that's probably one of the at least top 5, if not top 3 defenders in the entire league. That there's smoke around the fire of contract talks that could happen any day now. So I've heard
any day.
And I'm hearing that from actual sources, not, I got my own people, so I'll leave it at that. But one of the things here is, and Brian, if I'm always stuttering and it seems like I'm carrying on or I'm doing this and that and jumping around, it's that guy's fault. He is just ornery today. You're like my worse than my kid or the cat. Both of them. Put them together in a room with a laser pointer. That's Brian right now. He's changing all the filters on his thing and having too much fun. You do know that
it's an accident.
A good portion of people can't even see that stuff.
I know.
Describe it. Joe Hayden
they can just tell.
Joe
they
Hayden
can just tell.
Okay, Joe Hayden wanted a contract extension, and I think that pretty much came back as, no, we're not really interested in that at this time. And so then he tweets out like Last Dance, and he has Drew Rosenhaus as his agent, and that's never always I bet Drew Rosenhaus makes a lot of money. I bet you he's a pain in the ass to a lot of front offices around the league too. He probably does very well for his clients, but it always seems like there's issues or little bumps in the road when it comes to contract talks when he's involved in this stuff. It's just always been that way for years. So Joe tweets out Last Dance, and it's like, okay, Joe, yeah, that's great, but it's probably Last Dance period. I don't know where you're going to go and grab all this other money. There's not going to be a whole lot of demand for a 33-year-old corner. Witherspoon's like as you just said, is an addition too, because he plays Joe's spot. Joe doesn't move on the field, so he would have to adjust to the other side. And one of the other parts, or whatever with that too is that how many times has Hayden played a full season? They need somebody else that could jump in there. Last year wasn't really his fault. He got thrown on the COVID list, and they had to play James Pierre. So you can't have that. But for left corner, you're going to have to move. Witherspoon's going to have to move to the right. He's been playing left. Now, he did start, and he played opposite Richard Sherman. So there's something to be said about that, too. We'll see. It's a one-year thing, but it could be almost like a trial period here. If it does well, then you've got your guy already in your system for next year that you extend and re-sign and maybe replace Hayden. Maybe Sutton goes to the outside. Maybe you draft somebody. But whatever. There's a whole lot of things, if, ands, of what's for next year. But this year, I like this move. I think it gives them a lot of position flexibility because Carl Joseph isn't necessarily a guy who's the paradigm of health and staying on the field either. So if we're going to try and count on him being called up and maybe move into one of these sub-package spots, I don't know that you can necessarily count on that. The thing you can count on is that Cam Sutton has been very good with his flexibility. The question mark there is whether or not did they see something different with him playing outside corner. That's where they wanted him to go. It's the reason why they let Steven Nelson go. Did they change their mind on this? I just think there's a whole lot of different things going on. We talk about a lot of change with the offense. The defense this year, though, Joe Schobert coming over, who we've already, gotten hype and forgot about. And they've added a lot of names to this roster when you're talking about Kevin Colbert. Melvin Ingram being another one that's going to be a rotational guy in there with Watt and Alex Highsmith. You got Schobert, and he's going to have the green dot. He's going to be calling the defense. And Devin Bush has done that. So now you got somebody, if somebody gets hurt, you got somebody that's capable. But both of those guys could stay on the field in passing situations too. So a Mike Hilton guy that's out there for 2/3 of the game, that role may not be 2/3 of the game anymore. And it's all going to be dependent on matchups, of course, week to week, because Hilton wasn't always out there all the time. Sometimes he would play 20 snaps. Sometimes he'd play 50 out of 65 or something. So you had a sliding scale depending on, how pass heavy, what the different type of matchups were across the field. But I think all of these pieces come together, and it shows, Kevin Colbert's a dog for number one, because these moves that he has made it's just been really impressive for a team that doesn't do anything or wasn't able to do anything in free agency. And even when they can, really don't. When you combine those moves, all the things we were talking about with the draft picks, Trey Turner, etc., Joe Schobert, Ahkello Witherspoon, Carl Joseph maybe getting snagged here. They originally had a visit with him. Now it's kind of like you might be on the way out of the NFL. So now they get him the business end of it. He doesn't get what he wanted originally, and maybe they couldn't offer. Now you get him for bottom dollar. There's a lot of great things I believe going on here with this shaping and the formation of the roster. I'm not really too worried about the Steelers defense at all this season, and I think this is just one more thing that gives you one. you could sleep better at night knowing that Witherspoon now being there offers you yet another option should, plan A or plan B not pan out.
Absolutely. There's no question about it. I don't feel a huge level of concern with the defense at this point, and that's just there's no reason for me to have felt that way. You can flip this on the whole last dance with Hayden. That means Hayden's trying to play for a contract yet again. You expect him to have a solid performance. It's not like his play is going to slack off because then he's not going to be able to get paid, right? So he's going to probably be having a slight chip on his shoulder trying to you're not going to make me stop. So trying to get the right things. Well, you did, because I have to note that you've in fact attempted to do so. But it's not going to get me off topic.
But I'm sitting here on Mount Washington in front of Heinz Field, like over my shoulder.
It's beautiful. It's gorgeous. It's lovely.
That's a Dave DiCello shot, by the way. If you don't follow him on Twitter, do.
Yeah, he's awesome.
Amazing photography in the city
Great
of Pittsburgh.
Stuff.
Yeah. So
there you go. I'm going to the moon. I'm in outer space now. Wait, you know what? Let's put it up. It's
Here
the
comes
Aurora.
The one-star
it's
reviews
the Aurora
from the 2%ers.
Borealis. Yeah, come on, 2%ers. Give me some feedback on my backgrounds. How about the beach? Look, it's lovely. I hate the beach. I don't want to go there. All right, I'm going back to this one because I like it. Because we're about to end. I hate the beach. Sand sucks. I hate sand. Sand is the most annoying thing in the world. Therefore, I hate the beach. You did get me distracted.
It worked. But don't worry, we're getting out of preseason form ourselves. So
Hayden is Hayden's. I think Hayden. The fact that he's looking at this as potentially a last year at Pittsburgh is probably actually a good thing for us in some ways. It keeps him on fire for the defense. The defense is going to be fine. There are question marks. We admit that. You don't know what you're going to have with the offensive line, but you can be encouraged by what you have seen in the preseason. And hopefully that just carries over. There will be hiccups. It ain't going to be perfect. It's a growing process, but I think you've got enough veteran presence across the offense, across the defense, that this team is really going to shock a lot of people, and not in a bad way.
Well, Brian, I had something else I wanted to bring up here as far as like our players that we felt maybe who were we bullish on that might not be living up to the billing, and who might not be getting enough attention that is going to have a breakout year. And we do have to cover that, but there was also some breaking news as we're recording this. This is tough for me to say. Tunch Ilkin has passed away.
Oh man.
Yeah. I was bringing up Twitter here, and it's all over. I was just making sure. I was like, is this real? And I guess he had lost his battle with ALS and pretty. I don't know how long he's been dealing with this, so I don't want to say pretty quickly, but it's somebody that I felt great that we had the honor of having on the show.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely.
He was definitely
awesome guy. Pleasure to talk with. Made you feel very comfortable in conversing with him. Extremely personable. I'd met him a couple other times, and he's just one of the nicest individuals you ever wanted to meet.
Yeah,
it's really unfortunate.
Yeah, I had the opportunity of speaking with him several times, aside from this programming as well. And one of my prouder moments here for Steel City Underground was him and Wolf giving us a shout out on their own show.
Oh, I know, it's awesome.
Several years ago when we were just getting started, and that was great of them to think of us and do that for us. So. Yeah, with a heavy heart rate now, trying to close this out, I'm just like, man, that really hit me. And I'm just reading some of the comments. There's some really great ones here from a lot of the folks that he's touched their lives. And I'm going to give the Yins Are Crazy guy, Mike Nicastro, a little shout out here because he's at the top of my list here. But he said, Tunch was to me and to a lot of Yins, I'd imagine, what Myron Cope was to the generation above us. So Mike obviously is younger than you or I, but that was those were pretty big shoes. He stepped in there as a 3-man booth. Myron was, getting up there in age. So they went from having just Myron doing color to adding Tunch or Tunch, as we should say, the proper pronunciation. But Yeah, just really great guy. Had a really solid career. He's one of those, 80s players that maybe you don't think about because the Steelers weren't the dynasty of the 70s or didn't have like the Cowher years of the 90s and all the success we've seen in the new millennium. So,
Right.
But he was there and a voice of all of this, and just very, 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 very sad. It's you want to talk about getting, I'm trying not to choke up over here. I'm losing kind of some of my thoughts. So, do we want to talk about I think we could talk about the underdogs or whatever. I'm going to go to that real quick before we sign off. So, rest in peace, Tunch. You'll definitely be missed, and I know this is a hard one for everyone to take with the news on Saturday morning. So, Brian, my two guys, I already spoke about. I've been high. I've been back and forth on both of them. I'm gonna say it's Alex Highsmith and Cam Sutton. Cam Sutton only because of all the things that keep getting shifted around with cornerback. I don't necessarily know that it's his fault, but I don't think he's going to have maybe the opportunity to shine in the way that I thought he might early on. By necessity, there's a chance that Witherspoon comes in. I don't know. Does he start week 1, and then Sutton doesn't maybe have as much playing time. He's not going to be a full-time 100% of the game outside boundary corner that he was penciled in as. So I think as a free agent signing, a lot of people are going to go back and look at that maybe if this is what ends up happening and say, what the heck were you thinking? And it's by no fault of his own. But could be fault of his own is we don't see everything that goes on in practice, and maybe the team had another indication there, and that's the reason why they're making the moves they are with Joseph or Witherspoon there. So pains me to say it. I'm still high on Sutton. I still think he's fine. I think the loss of Hilton is too much panic. And on the other side, the loss of Bud Dupree, some panic there. Was he on fire? Absolutely. And I've been a Bud Dupree supporter even when everyone else wasn't. Absolutely. Yep. Of course we were. But Alex Highsmith is the guy that I think everyone's overlooking. Your general sports media has talked about the Steelers adding Melvin Ingram, and they just kind of pencil him right in as the starter. And he's 32 years old also. So a little different, though, when you're not covering wide receivers and you're just pass rushing. But aches, pains, and things like that, it's very real. Father Time's undefeated. So, but Alex Highsmith is the guy. And it's I think he's going to open a lot of eyes when he gets to be not just 16-week, but 17-week starter.
Yep, I'm with you on Alex Highsmith 100%. I mean, I was there last year. I kept saying, you watch this young man. He's going to be special. I don't buy rookie jerseys. I don't buy rookie signed helmets. I got both for Alex Highsmith. I also had him for Chase Claypool, and I don't do receivers at all. But I still think that Claypool. But I'm going to surprise you, I think, a little bit with my other choice. And it is not necessarily because I think he's really going to be bad, but because expectations are always so high for this individual that I don't know whether he will consistently be able to have seasons that live up to them. And that's our fine friend, Minkah Fitzpatrick.
Ooh.
See, on the flip side, you might have thought I was going to go TJ, but I think TJ will always live up to what TJ is.
Yeah, it's
right.
Whatever the
TJ
boys
is a
are drinking,
potential
right?
DYOP every year. And it's not that I think Minkah will have an off season, but Minkah has done like magic Minkah stuff, right? Fitzmagic kind of things that you can't consistently count on.
No, that's fair.
It's Troy-esque sometimes, right? The way that he comes up with certain things. And at some point, that kind of luck does not consistently happen. And when it doesn't, it also can lead that player to get a little down and maybe try and overcompensate. So I'm a little I'm not going to be surprised if this is a season for Minkah that isn't as spectacular. I still think he'll be really good. I still think he will likely it's not even a question that he's not going to be in the top tier. I just think it's possible people may expect more than they're going to get.
That is 100% fair. And even last year, you saw some of the fans kind of sour all of a sudden. It was like, because the things he was doing in 2019 right off of being traded
it was
jumping in with like 2 days of practice or whatever, was just absolutely phenomenal. The way he was changing games, you cannot expect that, not from a safety or anybody in the secondary. I think TJ or somebody like that is, and this is the reason why the pay scales are the way they are for these players too.
Yeah,
the edge rushers get a lot. They're usually the highest paid among all the defenders, because they got the opportunity of getting to the quarterback, sacking the quarterback, stripping the football, forcing fumbles. They're just, on the go all the time. And they get a lot of notoriety that, cornerback, when they have a great game, you don't even say their name.
Right.
And the safeties are right in there with it too. You'll say their name sometimes. They're going to get up in the box, they're going to make a tackle or something like that. But sometimes you have the unsung heroes. It's the same way with the defensive line. You got Cam Hayward or whatever else. So, well, Brian, that was an unusual set of circumstances to end the show here. And our best wishes go out to Tunch Ilkin, his family and friends, of course. And that's just crazy that I happened to look that up real quick. I said, we always sometimes get our hand caught in a cookie jar. We always talk about, hey, when should we, do the show? And last week it was like, let's go into this 53 real quick. We know they're going to make moves, because we keep holding off, they're just going to keep making moves, and it's not going to matter. So still a lot of good points that we made there. Anyways, so go back and check that out. Happy Labor Day weekend to everyone as well. Enjoy it. We'll be back later this week as well with a preview of the Steelers at the Buffalo Bills to open up the season. Brian, thanks for joining me once again today, my friend.
Always a pleasure. Good to be beginning the journey of the season.
Yep, absolutely. And don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. And thank you once again for supporting the Steel City Underground podcast and our platforms as well. Until next time, my name is Joe. His name's Brian. We encourage everyone out there to be safe, be good, and we'll catch you later.
We would like to thank you for listening and remind our listeners to follow us on social media and our website, www.steelcityunderground.com.